here's my thoughts on remote work. If you are a fresh grad, if you're in your early 20s, remote work is the worst thing you could do to your career. When you think about what you gain from work, it's not just skills, it's actually relationships. It's being able to build strong, working, trusted relationships with your peers, with your managers. How do you create those relationships? You are in a setting like an office where you have the ability to have these serendipitous interactions. Like, hey, let's go grab a coffee. Or you're in the break room and everyone's like talking for 15 to 20 minutes. Those serendipitous interactions are so valuable in one's career, and they can only really happen in person in an office.
Hello everyone, welcome to After Hours with Kalibrr. We're thrilled to bring you an unfiltered, behind-the-scenes look at the world of work, careers, and everything in between. Our goal with this podcast is simple: to dive deep into the ever-evolving workplace dynamics. So whether you're grinding it out in your 9 to 5, hustling with your side gig, or still trying to figure it all out, this is the place for candid career conversations and insights that matter. In today's episode, we're joined by an amazing guest, our very own Kalibrr CEO, Paul Rivera, to chat about one of the most talked about generations in the workforce today, Gen Z. So hello, Paul. It's an honor to finally meet you and have you chat with you. How are you feeling today?
Good. Yeah. Thanks for setting this up.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much as well for taking your time to be here. It's exciting to get your perspective on adapting to the new generation because, in all honesty, not everyone is willing to understand or are having trouble understanding this. But of course, in order for us to do so, we need to know who exactly we're dealing with. So let's dive into it. We know that Gen Z are people born between 1997 and 2012. But on a more subjective manner, how would you describe Gen Z in general?
Yeah, it's a great question. So maybe I'll describe myself first. I'm a millennial born in 1982. And specifically, people born around my age, they're called bridge millennials, meaning we were born in an analog world, but we grew up digitally. I first was on the internet when I was 12, got my first computer right around then. So I still understood what it was like to grow up in a world without computers, without always on internet. So I was young enough to remember that. But I was also young enough to also become fairly digitally savvy. Gen Z is very different. You're describing, I think, born 1996 to 2012. Yes. So these are people who grew up completely digitally native. So they've been surrounded by the internet, by computers, social media, all throughout their lives. They don't know a life other than that. So I think that's the biggest difference, is the context and the world environment that they grew up in. It's very different than maybe the one I grew up in, and certainly very different than the one my parents grew up in, because it's been digital and on since they were born.
All right, thank you for that. It's very interesting to see the comparisons between both generations. And it's actually, I agree with you, there's a term right now that's chronically online. So these are, the people who are literally just living their lives online, especially after the pandemic. That's something that we've seen manifest more. And of course, there are also different personalities and traits with Gen Z that sets them apart. And we can see this in the workplace as well, which we will dive later more into. But before we continue, I think we also do need to ask the question, why is it important to learn about Gen Z? A workplace consists of people in different age brackets, different backgrounds. So what makes them so special? Why is it necessary to have this discussion?
It's important because they are the fresh grads. They are hiring. These are the people that have entered your workforce over the last few years. These are the people that are going to grow into managers and leaders within your organization. So I think it's absolutely important to learn about them, learn their quirks, learn their personality types, learn the things that they like, the things that they dislike. Because I think if you are to succeed as an organization, as a business, as a startup, today, there are many skills and capabilities that Gen Z is just amazing at, that people like me or people my age or people older are just not that good at. One example is the use of social media. this use of social media to build a brand, use of social media to tell a story, to narrate the story that you want. Just editing videos, right? If you look at how we all consume media today, we're all consuming these amazingly edited videos that are almost always created by a Gen Zer. So I think if you are to succeed as a business, as an entrepreneur, you have to not just be able to learn about them, you have to be able to tap their skill sets.
Thank you for that. And yeah, I think there's also a thing going on wherein they say that these are the future of work. Gen Z is the future of work. And for people to not know what the future is, it can be quite scary. But right now, I'm pretty sure most businesses and employees already have personal experiences working or interacting with Gen Z. So can you give us a first-hand experience of how is it like engaging with them? How is it like leading them and so on?
Yeah. So I work a little bit on the Gen Z side with the Kalibrr team, a little bit more with other companies like Remedy that I'm involved in. I would say there's some differences and then there are some similarities. Maybe the big difference that is, that I think we're going to talk about is this desire to work from home. Mm-hmm. They're almost afraid to come into an office. They're afraid to commute. Or they also understand I can also be very productive at home. Why do I need to come into an office? I can be very productive at home. I can save money. I don't have to deal with the hellish commute in Manila. I think those are all very, very valid things. My other set of experiences with the Gen Z, these are people that are extremely digitally savvy. They tend to move very quickly. They like to push the kind of the bleeding edge of what a team or an organization can do. And they may get dismayed if they're not given some room to create, right? So I think you have to also create an organization that allows them to be able to do that. Maybe the last thing I'll say about Gen Z that's very different is the fact that these are people that have grown up with social media all of their lives. If you're on Instagram or TikTok, right, you're on both of those. You're on it 100 times a day, right? So imagine 100 times a day, you're comparing your life to thousands of strangers. And now you multiply that 100 to times 1,000 times years. So a lot of young people have grown up in a world and an environment where they're constantly comparing their lives to the lives of others, people they may not even like. And I think that creates some changes in terms of your mind, your mindset and behaviors that I think young people should be aware about, because if they're not aware of it, they can potentially make decisions about their careers or their lives that are detrimental to their long-term goals.
Want to hear more? Tune in to the entire podcast on our Spotify account.